PixMix is brought to you by the Arometa Show, brought to you by Liberated Syndication, twitch.tv/Arometa Show, and is in association with the Old School Lane podcast.
PixMix is brought to you by oldschoollane.blogspot.com and is associated with the Aaron Meta Show.
Welcome to PixMix. My name is Aaron.
And my name is Patricia.
Hey Patricia, welcome back to PixMix, and also welcome back to the Aaron Meta Show pretty much as well. So, I've decided that because Toy Story 4, at least for me and Patricia, is quite an event, I decided also to make it an episode of the Aaron Meta Show as well. So, not only are you listening to this on PixMix, you're also listening to this on the Aaron Meta Show podcast feed as well. So, and by the way, whilst we're on the subject of the Aaron Meta Show, I want to apologise for the lack of episode last week. It was because I was out in Plymouth with my younger brother, and we went to go see my great uncle Dennis, who is currently on the Plymouth Naval Memorial. He was one of the people who lost his life during World War II. So I just thought my brother Sanjay actually found him, and so we went out and go see him. So it was quite an amazing event, and he's amazing. He's actually right on the front of it as well. So it's a very proud moment, I think, for both the Metas and the Chatwins. So yeah, that's pretty good. So, but anyway, that's the reason why the Aaron Meta Show wasn't on last week, but we are on here this week for PixMix, and so it's kind of funny because people thought that this was going to start becoming quite linear now for PixMix, but people weren't predicting that we were going to be kicking off PixMix again with Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. So I guess
for sure. Even though we kind of sort of hinted on that a while ago.
Yeah, mind you, there's still some randomness. There's still some random nature to PixMix. So who knows what we're going to be covering? Like we probably might get to Onward, and then all of a sudden, we'll just cover something completely different. So that's the magic of PixMix. So, but anyway, shall we get to what everyone's been looking forward to?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay then, Patricia, you got a friend in me.
I knew that we were going to be talking about this, and you had to bring up that line. I knew it.
Here we go.
Goes and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way.
So Toy Story 4 is finally out in the 2019. It is the American computer animated comedy film produced by Pixar Animation Studios and Walt Disney Pictures as the fourth installment of the Pixar's Toy Story series. For those of you who aren't familiar with Toy Story, and I urge you to go listen to the other episodes if you're not, and it is that the Toy Story is based on Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and also the toys that lived in Andy's room. However, things have progressed quite stunningly since then, and now they have moved over to a room which is occupied by a girl called Bonnie. So basically they are toys who come to life when people are not around, and they basically have this kind of like secret society, if you will, and their main pretty much is to make sure that the children have wonderful memories and also have have an imaginative experience with playing with the toys and everything, and they keep themselves very organized as well through that. And so it was a very successful movie. Is one of the first 3D animated films to come out in the 90s, and it's pretty much lasted not only an amazing sequel, an amazing third installment, but dare I say, Patricia, also an amazing fourth installment as well.
Yeah, and you remember that how skeptical we were about this movie when it was first announced. Like, really? They're doing a Toy Story 4? The third movie's ending was so perfect. It didn't need to continue. But then we heard some, troubling news at first with they're going to change the story completely different. They were going to change 1/3 of the story or 1/2 of the story, and then the movie was going to be delayed. Then we had the controversies with John Lasseter. Then we had the passing of Don Rickles, who was the voice of Mr. Potato Head. So it did look a bit troubling. Then we saw the trailer, and we actually discussed about this in an episode of PixMix, where we were first introduced to Forky. We saw the reintroduction of Bo Peep, and we had some new characters brought in. And then we were like, okay, maybe there is some promise here. And then finally we are going to be talking about it. And a lot of people have been wanting us to cover it.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start off with the beginning. I mean, obviously through production. I mean, can we definitely say it survived production hell at this point? I mean, like, look at all the stuff that went before this. And think about it's nearly. I mean, could you say it's a miracle that it made it through? It made it in the way that
this happened, for sure. Because the jump between Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4 was 9 years. So it has been a very long time since we had a Toy Story movie. And, I remember like when when Toy Story 3 was brought in, and a lot of people were like reliving their childhoods, and they were, seeing the great opening with Andy playing with his toys, and that great montage with You Got a Friend in Me by Randy Newman. And then it jumped over to Andy going to college. But now we have to imagine that, just as much as, we were reliving our childhoods watching Toy Story 3, a new generation was being introduced to these movies. So now we have this 9-year gap, and I'm sure that a new generation is not only getting introduced to, Toy Story 4 with these movies, and we have, people who grew up with Toy Story 3 as their first movie, and now they're kind of like seeing the continuation of Bonnie.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously we start 9 years ago in this film, so it gives us a flashback between...
That's a little reference to the fact that it took 9 years for the, between Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4.
Yeah, I guess also, I believe also it's like, it is a massive coincidence as well, because, I mean, like, if you look at it, like, it does take place, like, literal, I mean, before, obviously, at this point, Andy is still obviously a kid at this point, and so I mean, you have to go back all those years to do that.
Yeah, and we can see that Bonnie is actually like a little kid as well. She's not a baby like we've seen her, before Toy Story 3.
So Andy, I mean, we look at Andy, and you can see that he's obviously very, very different from when we first got introduced to him, graphically as well. And so, I mean, some people complained about the way he looks, but I think he looks perfectly fine.
Yeah, and you have to remember that when you're going in from Toy Story 1, which was back in 1995, where CGI was in its infancy, and there was a reason why that Pixar decided to make a movie based off of toys, because they knew that the CGI looked very plasticky, and they thought it would be perfect for the texture of the toys. The human animation hasn't held up very well. Even if you look at the dog, Sid's dog, it looks horrendous. The animation is the one thing in Toy Story that hasn't held up very well. And so you come from, that, and then you go over to Toy Story 3, in which they look like they're humans. So you think, okay, we already know what Andy looks like, and we already know what the parents look like, and know the humans look like. So you have to take it into account that when going into Toy Story 4, and again, 9 years later, that technology has vastly improved since then, that yes, there's going to be some liberties in which the characters are going to look differently, but they are the same regardless. And I think that they're fine. It's nothing that I was like completely shocked over. I think that we even talked about this when we were discussing about the trailer, that a lot of people thought that this was not Andy. They thought it was another kid. And then we were like, no, that actually is Andy for sure.
I'll tell you what, there is actually something I want to bring up later on, because I mean, it's we'll bring this up later on when we come to it. But I mean, Andy looks fine to me. I mean, like, the only thing I'd be worried about is if they decide to do like, oh, we're going to do the Toy Story special edition, and therefore basically now Andy, the way Andy looked in the original film is going to be like, they're going to like redo all the graphics again, kind of like they're doing the Star Wars special editions. If you know,
no. And then they're going to like change plot points so that it can stick with the continuity of like the sequels, so that it can actually fit in as opposed to being like a standalone film. Oh, geez, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's Woody who shoots first. So,
I hate you.
So
okay, but no, but here we have this scene. So Woody is actually saving RC because he's about to slide down this huge rain stream all the way up to the sewers, and we have Woody, Buzz, Slinky Dog, and Bo Peep, who are trying to rescue RC right before he slides all the way down. And it's a very intense scene for sure. It's a dark and stormy night. I mean, it's cliche for horror movies, but here in this case, it really works because, it's toys, they get damaged, they get lost. And, when the kids are rushing inside so they can be able to keep themselves, dry.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
RC
in regards to it's not really I would say horror. Like, if you remember, do you remember the rhino scene in James and the Giant Peach when it was all raining and he's there screaming, "I'm not afraid of you," and
I'm talking about how it's dark and stormy nights are always used in horror movies, and it gets pretty cliche.
Yeah, but also they use them in intense scenes as well of when things are going pretty extreme, and so kind of the same way like the Lion King, for example, when it's all raining and Simba and Scar are all fighting one another, and then even Tom and Jerry the movie even did that when the house is burning down. So
okay,
it's
fair enough. Sure.
it's not just. I don't think it's just left to horror. I think it's also done for other intense action scenes as well. And so it's quite funny. That's a really intense way to start when you really think about it. It's like, oh hey, we already got the peril, and it's not remember the beginning of Toy Story 3 where it's he's all in Andy's imagination. It's like, no, this is a serious situation that's taking place in the first 2 minutes of the film. It's so it's a very intense way to start. So obviously they do the whole slinky thing where he can't stretch as far as he can, and so then obviously Woody has to stretch a bit further to go try and save RC. And then all of a sudden a car pulls up and a guy rushes into the house, and I was thinking, good grief, I mean who's this guy?
Exactly. I was thinking to myself, who is this guy?
Well, is Andy's dad finally starting to show his face?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that, but I was actually curious as to who it was. I didn't think that he was going to be rushing in all of a sudden. It's like, oh, Andy, I haven't seen you in so long. So, no, I didn't think it was him. But I was actually curious to see who it was. And it turns out it was some guy who was interested in purchasing Bo Peep and her lamp. And then we go over to, Andy's mom getting it. And she was asking Molly, hey, do you want to give away this lamp? And she's like, yeah, I don't need it anymore. And then all of a sudden we have Woody, staying outside so that he can be able to rescue Bo Peep. And then Bo Peep offers Woody to come with her. That way they can be able to stay together, because we have to remember that Bo Peep and Woody did have a really strong relationship. We've seen that in Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2. While she was a very minor character, she was Woody's love interest, and that's all we knew her by.
Yeah, and so obviously we get Woody's about to make the decision, and then all of a sudden Andy comes in and says, hey, I can't find Woody, and then all of a sudden that changes his mind. And then he decides, hey, I need to stay with Andy to make sure that he's okay. And then Bo Peep obviously goes away. So it's so again, very intense start to Toy Story 4. Again, can you picture another Pixar film where it started off this intense?
Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo, yeah. And I mean, at least it gave a little bit to say, oh hey, this is Nemo and this is his family, and then obviously the attack happened, but at least it gave a bit of breathing space before that happened. This, it just throws it straight at you.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do agree.
Mm-hmm. So then we get the intro, and Randy Newman's "You Got a Friend in Me" is that. I was actually thinking about that. I thought they would do either a cover for it or but no, they actually decided to go with the original theme again. So yeah.
Yeah, it was actually really nice. And even though they already did that in Toy Story 3 to bring back the nostalgia, but it was actually really nice to hear the song again.
Yeah. I'm really sorry to bring this up, but Patricia, have you ever heard of the metal band Disturbed?
Yes, I have heard it.
Yeah, so I was listening to one of their albums, and I noticed that they actually did a cover of The Sound of Silence. So it's he gets really intense at the very end of it, and all of a sudden, I don't know why, but as I was listening to that, I was thinking of Toy Story 4, and then all of a sudden out came, "You got a friend in me, you got a friend in me." Oh my God.
You know what? I cannot think of rock at this moment because. We probably have to mention this firsthand, that this is the very first Pixar movie in over 20 years that does not have a short. And it was very jarring for me, but I had to sit through a whole bunch of mostly crappy movie trailers. And one of them was Trolls World Tour.
Oh, you saw the Trolls World Tour. And tell you what, we'll talk about it on another show. But I mean, because I've already spoken about it previously. But actually, we never had a chance to actually talk about that. I mean, so actually, what we'll do, we'll talk about as a bonus. We'll talk about Trolls World Tour. I think at the end of the show. So and then we can
yeah, and also the other trailers that I saw, because my God, most of them sucked.
Oh my God, how desperate! I mean, did you get the 1 or 2 minute special at the beginning of for The Lion King?
No, I didn't get that one. Instead, I got Arctic Dogs, and I got that Will Smith spy movie. I got some, let's see, I got Frozen 2, and I got...
Well, I got Frozen 2. And
yeah, I got Frozen 2, and I got the Angry Birds 2.
Oh, okay. Well, I got the Angry Birds, I got Frozen 2, I got the Horrible Histories movie, and then... Oh, there was another one, and I got they did like this little special thing for like The Lion King to try and entice people to try and go see it, because it's like
I wish I gotten that, because then I wouldn't
have
to
no, you didn't want it was basically the two actors who play Simba, like the person who plays young Simba and the person who plays the adult Simba, basically having a debate about which one's the best Simba. Like, it's like, I mean, I just kind of sat there like, guys, I've read the reviews, you both suck. Okay, so it's like, it was kind of like, just start the movie already, and like, it's just amazing how desperate they are to try and get people to try and see The Lion King, and yet, you're not seeing anything new. It's just going to be basically the nearly the same story, except basically with CGI. So if anything, it's the Avatar King, pretty much. So like. Because anyway, Avatar was kind of based on Pocahontas. Lion King, is based on the Lion King, just with better graphics. Basically.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. So, and we actually saw the Mulan trailer, and give it kudos that even though it's not adding characters like Mushu, and even though it's not adding the songs in a traditional sort of way, they're actually basing the story off of the Ballad of Mulan, the Chinese poem that they got the story from.
I didn't get the Mulan trailer yet. So I mean, I've seen it on Twitter, but I'm not actually. It didn't actually come on the. It actually didn't show as a trailer on the on there. To be honest with you, I mean, some of the trailers, were garnered towards a younger audience. If you will.
I didn't. I actually saw it on YouTube. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. So I thought you saw it as a trailer. Really?
I wish I would have seen it, because then I wouldn't have to watch the crappy trailers.
Well, I mean, maybe like most of the movies that we have here, they're usually like the same rating, if you will, because like in the Mulan trailer, like she's stabbing people. Like, she's kicking ass. Like, this is the reason why I think that's gonna be so awesome. Anyway, we've moved completely off Toy Story 4, so I think we'll have to apologize to everybody. But
okay. Let's get back to the story. So
I promise we'll talk about other trailers once we get to the end of this and give our scores for Toy Story 4.
Yeah. So sorry, everybody. Okay. So the next thing that we have a nice transition, very similar to how it was in Toy Story 3, of Andy playing with his toys. We have, experiencing like the fun of being played with, and then we jump into Toy Story 3, where Andy is giving Bonnie Woody, and then it cuts immediately towards our main story. So we have Bonnie, who's playing with her toys, and Woody is being left out. He is not the favorite toy anymore, and he's being stuck into the closet. And I think this is really interesting, because it shows a difference between Bonnie and Andy, in which Andy had loved Woody. That was his favorite toy of all time. And we have Bonnie, in which she's focusing on her other toys, and Woody is just like sitting there gathering dust.
Here's the thing about this. I would like to see more conflict with like the new leader, if you will, of the bedroom, and between Woody, because Woody's the one with heaps of experience. In regards
he
to
has
this.
much more experience than Dolly.
Yeah, but like Dolly, I would like to have seen like maybe if Dolly turned around and said, "Hey, look, I've had other kids before, Bonnie, and that's the reason why I should be X." And the reason why I know this and I know that. But in the conversation, Woody comes across as the more knowledgeable one. So it's like,
but we could also make the argument that Dolly was Bonnie's owner first, and maybe she thinks that, you have no rights to tell us what to do because you're a newer toy, and I've had more experience with Bonnie. Even though he's had like decades more experience as a toy owner, he's a new owner for Bonnie. So maybe his experience maybe come across as like old-fashioned, or maybe a little bit too pushy and not towards what Bonnie is. I mean, we don't even know who who the previous owners of Woody are, but we can assume that maybe this might have been his very first girl owner. So maybe he wouldn't have had much experience with that.
Who knows? Like, here's the thing about this. I mean, like, I mean, we might as well just skip to this part because we're kind of going there anyway. But we find out that Woody is like 1950s origin toy. Pretty much.
Yeah,
like
so
this.
we already know about that from Toy Story 2.
But that's the case. I mean, he must have had other owners before Andy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we already know in Toy Story 2 when Al was trying to purchase Woody and Andy's mom comes by and takes him away saying, "No, I'm sorry, this is an old family toy." So we can assume that maybe it belonged to Andy's mom or Andy's father.
Yeah, it's like, imagine if it belongs to Andy's dad and then that ends up becoming Toy Story 5. Like,
Oh man, Toy Story 5, the prequel. We get to see Woody's origin stories, and we get to see him being played with Andy's dad, and maybe Andy's dad passes away, and the only thing that Andy, clings to is Woody because that belonged to his dad, and that's the only memory of him. Like, man, that would have been tragic.
well, mind you, like, then he wouldn't have easily let him go in Toy Story 3. Like,
I mean, like, so I'm sure
I don't think he's dead.
I
think he's probably just I think he's probably just not there.
You mean like divorced or something?
Well, I don't know, but I think maybe he's not there, and maybe that's the reason why Andy confines in Woody somehow. I think to make up for the fact that he's not around.
Right. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, like I know that's kind of already been done in Up, but I mean, like, I really hope that we can. I mean, I don't know. Like, I couldn't imagine him being dead. I don't know why. That's just the way I feel about it. But
okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think that maybe he left Andy and then he gave him Woody, saying like, this toy belonged to me when I was a kid. Please take care of it, or something like that. And maybe his dad's memory became less and less relevant to him, and so maybe that was kind of like the reason why he decided to give him up. I'm not sure, but we're getting off topic again. Let's get back to the story.
Yeah.
So Bonnie is a little bit afraid of going to her first day of kindergarten, and Woody decides to sneak into her backpack and make sure that she's doing okay. She's feeling a little bit more comforted. And that's when she decides to, make some arts and crafts. And we have the creation of Forky.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously then we get that Forky comes to life in the bag, which, is cool. Everyone was laughing at that. Yeah, by the way, and that was crazy. And so here's the thing about this: like, he comes to life, and then he still thinks that he's trash, basically, because he came out of so like there's we're starting to kind of get somewhat of an idea of basically how toys come to life, I guess. And I mean, it kind of defeats the idea that they're all. Like, the idea that, people go with, the Pixar timeline, that this takes place after Wall-E, and so, like, everyone's come back to Earth and everything, and the robots are, like, kind of like the toys now. That's one thing I've heard, but...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there'll probably be like some crazy Pixar theory about like how toys come to life if they're not originally toys, but we're not here to discuss about that.
Well,
so
actually,
yeah,
there is a little bit tidbits at the end of the episode, but we'll wait till then to tell you. But Forky ends up coming to life, but then he's currently Bonnie's favorite toy, and he keeps trying to throw himself away. So Woody takes it upon himself to make sure that he doesn't do that. And so we get this whole... Randy Newman also does this whole thing about... That's the thing about this. This is a very... I know Randy Newman did You Got a Friend in Me, but he did a lot of other stinkers as well. I mean, like, if you think about it, like, in James of the Giant Peach, he wrote a load of, like, songs and things like that that don't, well, basically, there's a reason why people make fun of, like, saying, like, oh, yeah, he just writes about whatever he sees. And
a lot of people also make fun of him with the fact that, even though that he writes a whole bunch of songs, they're like the themes are the same things over and over and over again.
Yeah, so like, he's like, he'd be sitting in this room right now, be like, Aaron, he's making fun of me on this podcast. It's like, shut up, Randy.
Aaron's making fun of his podcast. He's got to have some more faith in himself or something like that. I don't even know. But
okay, take it to step. You got a friend in me. No.
Okay. All right. So I think that another thing that we need to discuss about if we are going into this is that Yeah, so we have Forky, and he is constantly wanting to go into the trash because that was his main purpose. I mean, he is a disposable spork, I meant to say. He's a disposable spork that, he's only used for like a little bit, and then he's just thrown in the trash. And he feels comforted when he's in the trash. He feels warm and cozy and safe. That's what he said in the movie. And he's constantly going in there, and Bonnie is always concerned when she doesn't find Forky. And that's when Woody makes it his mission to make sure that Forky is there with Bonnie at all times, and basically being her toy. That way she can be able to build happy memories. And then when we go over to the announcement that, before school starts, they're going to go on a road trip. And then we have that song that you were just mentioning about, like, don't throw yourself away or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's a very specific song for this particular scene, which is something that Randy Newman doesn't really do.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like, the song that he sings in this, I think, dare I say, it's probably as good as, like, the one where he sings about how things are changing in the original Toy Story film. Like, I think it's one of the Randy Newman songs we can definitely say, like, yeah, this is relevant for now, and this is a good soundtrack for the montage that we're just seeing. So,
yeah, it is good for what it is. But I'm just saying, like, he doesn't do it very often. He always sings songs about, like, things that are the theme of the movie, like, oh, you got a friend in me, or it's the time of your life, so live it well, or something like that.
Or just randomly sings about love, like in I'm sorry, I keep bringing up James and the Giant Peach, but Randy Newman did songs for that too, and it was just like
don't worry, we'll talk about James and the Giant Peach some other time, but not right now.
Yeah. So obviously we get that montage, and then we get to the RV break at some point, like where they're driving, and so Forky decides, since he can't throw himself away in the trash, he ends up throwing himself out the window. So he ends up just being trash out on the street. So Woody dives out after him, and says, oh hey, I'll in 5 miles I'll be able to make it. So he goes, finds him, and then they have this kind of bonding. They kind of do this bonding as they walk across, and like, so Woody gives him an understanding of how Bonnie means that much to him, and then also talks about his own experiences as well. So which I think is I think it's a good scene. I think, and
it's a very nice scene, and it gives Forky an understanding on why he's so important to Bonnie, because he didn't really understand. He just saw himself as trash, but then when he heard of Woody's stories firsthand and what it's like to be a toy, then he kind of like gives an understanding on, I need to be there for Bonnie because I make Bonnie happy.
Well, this is the hilarious thing about this, is like, it's like, oh wait, Bonnie, I make her feel warm and I make her feel safe. It's like, actually, I'm her trash. It's like, oh my god, I gotta go find her and everything like that. So like, he doesn't get the concept of like being a toy, but he does understand the concept of basically being her trash. Basically, so he goes off and does that. So they end up going towards the county fair, and which is in a city, but nearby is an antique store, and then something catches Woody's attention, and that's Bonnie's lamp is in the antique store where they are at the moment. So which I think is a Bonnie could have Bo Peep could have ended up anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Point. Like, the fact that he ended up just in that specific place, like, it's like, it's a 1 in a million chance when you really think about it. But
but what the thing is that really makes it really interesting is that technically she's not there, but we do get an understanding on bits and pieces of what happened to Bo Peep after she was taken away, but we are introduced to other characters. So we're introduced to these creepy looking dummies that we discussed about, that ones that look like the dummies from Goosebumps in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And then we're introduced to Gabby, who is this old 1950s doll who looks really nice and sweet, but then when she finds out that Woody has a voice box and that Woody was made roughly around the same time as Gabby, then she kind of goes into a bit of a threatening mood in which like she wants the
I'll
the
be
voice
honest
box.
with everybody. When I first saw Gabby Gabby, I thought, yeah, this thing's gonna die. Like, this is gonna be the villain. Like, I feel like we've been building up to this moment because, we had Sid who was just scared of toys. Then as his kind of like his punishment for things. Then we had the prospector who was like, stuck on a backpack with another girl who was going to like draw all over him and everything like that. Then we had in 3, we had Funzo attached to the front of a truck. And I thought
It's a Lotso.
a Lotso, sorry. Like, I don't know, where did Funzo come from?
Gonzo is like, it sounds like Gonzo's paradoxal cousin.
Yeah. Okay, so we had Lotso who got attached to the front of a truck. Then I just thought it's building up to this. I thought, yeah, they're gonna have. I really thought that the villain in this was gonna die, or like that. To be honest with you, I mean, we'll get to that bit in a minute. But Gabby Gabby was a very surprising character. I have to say, it took me by surprise when seeing what she was about and everything. So I mean, she comes across as very threatening at the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And so
she kind of like goes into that fine line about being like really, really sweet, but has like a little bit of a sinister side to her. Not as much as Lotso, because Lotso is comes across as sweet, but inside he is like very powerful and very sadistic. But here she's a little bit more subtle and quiet, and she kind of like uses Forky's story about Woody to her advantage, especially since he was taken by the dummies when Woody was escaping, and then all of a sudden that's when he gets an idea about like where Bo Peep is, and then she's at taking Forky and like caressing Forky, saying like, tell me more about this Woody guy. And then he was like saying, he belongs to Bonnie, but he used to belong to Andy, and I don't think he really fully gotten over it because he's stuck in this closet and he's not being used as much.
I would say it's kind of like what Theodore Roosevelt once said, speak softly and carry a big stick. Pretty much so.
Yeah. So we have this. Then we have this interesting foreshadowing that kind of like plays a little bit of a twist in the end. So, the little girl of the antique store, her name is Harmony, and she takes Woody, and they're in this playground where a bunch of like toys are being scattered and abandoned, but in reality they're there so that they can be able to entertain the toys. Kind of similar to how.
By the way, in the moment of all this, the dummies have captured Forky and are now holding him hostage.
Yeah, I think I kind of meant.
You did mention that. Sorry, I do apologize.
That's okay, no problem. But yeah, and then that's when Woody and Bo Peep get reunited, and yeah, we definitely see a much more different take on Bo Peep, like more different than we've ever seen her. Because, as mentioned before, in the 2 movies that she was brought in, Toy Story and Toy Story 2, she was very meek and very quiet, but at the same time was very supportive for Woody. Like I said, she was kind of like Woody's girlfriend, and that was pretty much it. But here, it's a complete 180. She's assertive, she's tough, she's been through so much because she was given away, but then her owner outgrew her, and then she was like moved around from place to place. Then she was in the antique store for many years, and then she decided to leave because she wanted to make her own destiny.
Mm-hmm. And like so, yeah, her character evolution, I think, is very understandable. Like, I mean, on top of that as well, like she's building her own gear and everything. Like, if you see in, she's actually built like a kind of a Batmobile for herself, or Skunkmobile, if you will, in this. And so, like she's actually kind of, it really is proper roughing it in this area. And she's now her own. She's not like abide bound now by an owner. She's just she's her own free spirit in this. And so she also has a psychic. I can't remember the name of a psychic now. Who is it?
It kind of looks
the Polly Pocket
very
girl.
much. Yeah, it looks like a Polly Pocket, exactly. I was just about to say that. And, she's very, it kind of, I remember those because I used to actually have Polly Pockets as a kid, and her name is Giggled McDimples. Okay.
And so, so Giggles obviously is the psychic of...
Polly Pockets, yeah.
Yeah, Polly Pockets. It's kind of like, I really thought she was going to be like her, kind of like her what Cortana was to Master Chief in Halo.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was going to be kind of like that character. Like, she's the person who whispers in her ear and like gives her like, advice and stuff like that. And sometimes she does, but not to the effectiveness I thought she was going to give to. That's just me. So, so then Woody has this. I liked one thing I liked about this was the conversation between the dialogues between Woody and Bo Peep in this. The fact that they had these these conversations about differing opinions on what they should do. Like the fact that Bo has now got to the point where she's hey, I'm out on my own. I don't need a kid anymore. And I got all these other kids we can play with, and I don't mind being a lost toy. But Woody still has kind of like this loyalty to Bonnie, and so it's like you can see there's the clash between those two, the conflict between those two. Like it reminds me of what Craig Bartlett taught me. So you have to you have to keep conflicts in between characters to tell good stories, and that's what we got here in this. So. It's
and I think that
really
one
well.
of the things that I really do appreciate is that at first, while it was a very nice reunion between Woody and Bo, we do see like how assertive Bo is and how her thoughts have completely changed and how Woody doesn't really agree with her that much. Huh?
Yeah. So, obviously, Woody convinces Bo to try and save Forky and for Bonnie, and so they ended up going all the way back to the antique store, and they pick up some other characters. So they pick up Ducky and Bunny on the way, and
voiced by Key and Peele.
Yeah, and also you've got Buzz at one point. He actually himself dives out of the RV and goes hunting them, goes on the hunt. And it's funny because his arc at the moment is like he thinks that he's listening to his inner voice, but he's actually just pressing his voice activator button.
He's taking his inner voice like too literally.
So I had a giggle at that. I thought that was hilarious, and and actually it works as a pretty good device for that plot, for that arc as well. So it was it was
very interesting because we knew. I mean, we have Buzz in a moment in which he has always listened to Woody because Woody was always the leader of the group. He was always the one who came up with the plans. And Buzz was very loyal to Woody because, Buzz was like the action-packed, he took action, but he didn't really like come up with like any unique plans. But now he's listening to his inner voice saying like, this is what you have to do. You have to go find Woody. You have to do this and that. And then we have, Buzz being captured and put into like this, this carnival game stall where, he's a prize of, if they hit the target. And then we have, Ducky and Bunny saying like, oh, we're not going to let you, steal our spotlight. We've been stuck in here for 3 years waiting for us to get played by a kid. And then finally we have, him coming up with an idea of getting Ducky's foot stuck in there so that they can be able to pull him out, and then he gets free. And so eventually he does use his inner voice to find Woody at the antique store.
Mm-hmm. So so basically we get to that point, and Woody kind of like screws up the plan a little bit, and so they all end up obviously getting in trouble with the dummies. And so then that takes place, and so then Bo takes over at that point and says, "Look, we're going to do this my way." So she ends up kind of going to like kind of like this secret club of like all these lost toys and everything.
Secret club with a whole bunch of toys and like this pinball, arcade game.
And by the way, it took 4 movies, but Tin Toy finally made his appearance in Toy Story film.
I know, right? I was so excited when I saw Tin Toy because that was the very first Pixar short back in 1988. And they were originally going to make a movie based off of Tin Toy with Toy Story, but they didn't think he was a strong enough character. But now we finally get to see him, and he looks great.
Yeah, it was sad because I was in the theater, and I knew I was basically the only kind of like Pixar nerd in that place because when Tin Toy came on the screen, nobody reacted. And there was also this really cute scene. I think that they were like looking for an item, and one of the items they pulled out was a grape soda pop, like a lid, and it's like, oh, that's the Ellie badge from Up. Yeah, so
I was the only one who even noticed that. It's like, oh yay, and people were like looking at me. It's like, what's up with her?
So we get to this point where we now meet the character played by Keanu Reeves, Duke Kaboom, And
Yes,
I have to say,
Duke
we're seeing the revival of Keanu Reeves at this point. Like, he's got so many roles currently coming up at the minute. And,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that ever since John Wick came out, I think that more people are starting to take him a lot more seriously as an actor, because he was always seen as like a joke actor. It's like, oh, his acting is too wooden. Oh, he shows absolutely no emotion. Or, oh, he's more better with playing like really dumb characters, like with Bill and Ted. So yeah, now a lot of people are treating him more seriously because, not only John Wick 3 came out and it was like really successful, but also there was a video game that came out that has Keanu Reeves as the main character, and now we have this movie.
Yeah, and so now he gets to play Duke Kaboom, and yes, it's like it's so hilarious, like listening to like how dramatic he is and how how he's all like he's like part full of himself, but you can see that he has like massive flaw of like he disappointed his kid when he first got him because he couldn't do what the toy was doing in the commercial, so that's how he ended up kind of like being a lost toy.
Yeah, and I think that's actually pretty funny that, the toy is Canadian and Keanu Reeves is a Canadian himself.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, and the whole, like, how they, he's basically the Canadian version of Evel Knievel, basically, for those of you who do not know. And so it's like, what was that whole Canada, like, that's, this whole, like, tagline that he had.
I Canada.
Do it. I Canada, like so something like that.
Who's the best in the Great White North? Duke Kaboom.
Duke Kaboom. So, so he's brought in to try and make the jump, and so he ends up. One thing the hilarious thing about this is that he's not very good at landing, but he's very good at crashing. So that's what he ends up doing. So he ends up crashing into the. He brings Woody along for the ride. Ends up crashing into the cabinet, and then they get the key to open it up and try and rescue Forky. So but they end up rescuing him, but then they end up obviously getting nearly captured again, and so they just barely escape with their lives. And then that's when Bonnie and Woody have that confrontation of like, hey, you can't go back in there again. Like, and
it's a really nice confrontation. Like, everybody's like all defeated because the cat was like dragging them around and attacking them and all that kind of stuff. And I guess we need to mention about like when he was trying to capture Forky, and you had the dummies like surveilling everything, and then we have Woody saying like, I have to do this, it's all I have left, and then Bo says, what about the rest of us? Mm-hmm. And it just really goes to show you that it's not just about Woody; it's about everybody else.
I tell you what, those dummies. I mean, they look stupid, but they look really threatening. They look really threatening at the same time. Like when they first come up in your face, like it's like I did jump a couple of times when they did appear on screen. So like they did their job pretty much. So that was good. So, so Woody goes back in, and I'm starting to blank on what happened after that, actually.
I think it was, I remember. So when Woody goes back inside, the dummies come out, and then we have Gabby slowly walking up to Woody saying, like, what's it like being played with? I don't know what that's like because I was already created with a defect, and I never got to play with any other kids. And talking about like the fond memories that Woody had with Andy, and then she was asking him
because
about,
she got it all from Forky pretty much, and so I thought she wasn't actually being sincere. I thought she was basically just screwing with him. I thought, and that's basically how she was going to get the voice box. And then he finds out that none of that was true, and then like Woody was lied to. And like I don't know why I thought that was going to be this entire film. I kept thinking Gabby was like the most sinister thing ever. Really, I thought like and like I was hoping the payoff was going to be like this girl that cat is going to rip that doll to shreds. I thought, and no, apparently Woody goes through with it. He gives up the voice box, and so then Gabby gets her opportunity to actually go to Harmony and say, hey, I've got a working voice box now. Can you are you gonna take me home and be my owner? But, mind you, when that scene came up, I saw this coming, to be honest with you. I knew she was going to reject her, because they kind of like, I felt like they were just kind of like hinting at it too much, I thought. And so, I kind of saw the fact that Harmony was just going to say, nah, and just throw her away. But what I didn't see coming was what was going to happen after that. So, you know when Woody goes up to the box with, where she's been basically, you know, Gabby's been choked, I really thought we were going to get like a psycho bitch scene. I thought she's going to go psycho. She's just going to go absolutely mental. She's going to just try and kill everybody or something like that. And that basically would be like, and then they would end up with like the cat, like, you know, ripping her up or something like that. I really thought they were going to go that route.
I actually thought that, you know, they were going to go after, you know, they were going to go meet up at the carnival and they were going to wait until, you know, they got the opportunity to have Bonnie. And I thought that, you know, Gabby was going to go after them saying like, you know, if you can't have Bonnie, or if I can't have Harmony, nobody can have a toy owner. Yeah. And so I thought that she was going to, you know, make sure that their plans go wrong. That's what I thought. But no, that actually doesn't happen.
Yeah, I just like, well, no, I think I didn't actually believe that she was actually going to do that the minute they actually went to the carnival. Because I thought, oh, hey, like, you know, because I wasn't expecting her to actually have that reaction of like, you know, hey, you can have your voice box back now. Because it's like, I mean, like, and you really... You know, that whole thing with Gabby, I thought that was going to be the tearjerker, you know, for that. And it was, in a way, it was. Like, you know, when she was running across the tops of the carnival tops, and then she sees that kid who's all alone and lost, and, you know, she says she doesn't know what to do, and then she decides, hey, well, you know, I'm not going to select Bonnie, I'm going to select this girl instead. And so she puts herself on the line and basically tries to get her to talk to her, and she does, and then she convinces her to have enough courage to go find a security officer to go find her parents. Like, you know, that for me was like, that was pretty awesome, actually. Mm-hmm. How amazing that was, and I thought that was going to be the oh, hey, this is the tearjerker that Tim Allen was talking about. I thought it was that. I thought, you know, actually that he was talking about, but no, we get this other surprising scene, which is so they finally get back to the RV, and then, you know, Woody's gonna, you know, make his way back and go back with Bonnie, but then, you know, he makes the decision to say, oh no, guys, you know, goes through all the toys, you know, says goodbye and says that he's gonna stay with Bo and be a lost toy.
Yeah. That was actually a surprise.
That was a surprise. And mind you, like, it wasn't... I mean, I did feel something when that happened, but not as much as, like, with the Gabby, you know, story. To me, like,
or, you know, she sees a little girl who's lost and she decides to comfort her while she was crying, and then finally she sees a security guard and asks for help, and she finally finds her parents, and Gabby goes off into her own little home where she can finally be you know, a toy. She can have a relationship with a kid.
Yeah, dare I say, I want, you know, if I mean, we're gonna have a discussion later on in the show, but I mean, I'd love to see her again. I love to see it, like, you know, it's like, oh, hey, like, you know, Woody and Bo, you know, meet up with her again. It's like, oh, hey, this is how things are now, how amazing things are. Like, you know, it's like, I'd love to see, like, an after, like, you know, an after thing for that. I really thought that was going to be, like, you know, somewhere in the end of the show, but, so the end of the showing, but, no, it's like, I guess we can leave it at that, I guess. And so, but, mind you, like, it's totally different from, like, all the other times we've had. Like, I mean, Gabby isn't even a villain in this. If you really think about this, I mean, like, she's a sympathetic villain, if anything. Like, it's almost kind of like, you know, when Disney bought Marvel, and like, it's almost like one of their, you know, guys went into Pixar and said, oh, hey, this is how you should write Gabby, and, you know, basically write it like, you know, some of our Marvel villains that we have, same way that, you know, Stan Lee would have done it. You know, like you know, give her a massive reason to, you know, not to be evil, but at the same time, maybe possibly even redeem herself.
Yeah, and we already had, you know, those kind of villains before. We already had the Prospector, and we already had Lotso, who were good, but then were revealed to be evil, and then they stayed evil until they got their comeuppance. I guess they thought, yeah, third time is not going to be the charm. We need to do something. I
really thought
different.
The third time was going to be, yeah, this girl's going to die. Like, 'cause, you know, when I first saw her, she was like creepy as all hell, and then all of a sudden she kind of, you know, at the very end she won me over, to be honest with you. So like, yeah, because she looks as creepy as the, you know, as the you know, the puppets that were around her. You know, pretty much, like, you know, you felt that creep factor around her, kind of like Goosebumps, you know. So,
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I think that I'm actually curious about what the original draft of the story was because we already mentioned this earlier in the show about how they had to do a rewrite like during the production. So I'm actually curious about like what
well, I mean,
happened.
if they're gonna give it the DVD release to the same guy who did Monsters Incorporated, the special edition, if you remember, he actually did incorporate the actual original story of Monsters Incorporated, as we know, and it was going to be Mary was going to be far more focused in that film, and also so there was going to be. And also, the ending was totally different as well. For like, so in the original pitch for Monsters Incorporated, Sully actually goes back with Mary and stays in the human world. So, I mean, obviously, if it goes the same route if Toy Story 4 goes the same route as Monsters Incorporated, I think they will give us the original story in the bonus features.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to see that. I mean, I remember when we first saw the trailer of Toy Story 4, we thought that Bo Peep was going to be the villain.
Yeah. And because that would have been interesting to say, but mind you, I think now the theme is like big, strong women characters. I think, and I don't want to say it's being done for obvious reasons, but I want to say that it's been done basically because that's the arc that Bo Peep would go on if she was lost. She would become a tougher character in the Toy Story lore, not the fact that basically that just seems to be kind of like the theme we seem to be going through in movies recently. So I think that's that's the reason why that. But enough about what I think of it in regards to the politics of Hollywood. But so obviously we get to we get to the point where Woody decides he's going to be a lost toy, and so then obviously mind you, like there was some foreshadowing at the beginning because you remember Bonnie took Woody's sheriff's badge and gave it to Jessie. And actually, we don't even talk about much about Jessie in this film when you think about it. Like,
to be quite honest, we didn't really talk about most of the characters in this film. We were talking mostly about Buzz, Bo Peep, Gabby, and Bonnie, and that's pretty much it. I mean, all the other characters, they didn't really matter.
Yeah, and so I guess, mind you, it was still an emotional moment when Woody knew he was going to have to let all these guys go. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah, like,
it was very emotional. I actually teared up a little bit when I saw, Jessie and Bo hugging and everybody hugging Woody when he decided to stay. And that hug with Woody and Buzz was just so touching. It made me tear up a little bit. And I thought that was very sweet.
I didn't want to say I teared up. I did find it. Yeah, I did smile when I was watching it because I felt like because there was like a lot of foreshadowing that kind of came before that happened. Like I think it kind of felt like to me it was inevitable that Woody was going to go away. I think. Sure. And also when they took the voice box out of him, I thought, there was part of me that actually believes he may actually die in this film. I thought, at one point, and so it's like I was kind of relieved when he's like, oh yeah, he's going to finally be together with Bo. And yeah, he's going to be a lost toy, but he's not really going to mind too much about that. So, I was quite happy with that ending, to be quite honest with you, because I was thinking of other, I was in other places, everybody. Like, this film took me massively by surprise, I'll be quite honest with you. I had a clear vision in my head of what I thought this film was going to be, and it wasn't that at all. Everything was totally different. And so, kudos to Pixar for keeping me on my toes, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, kudos to everyone.
And then we have to talk about, the end credits, because we do see what, Bo and Woody are doing. So we have them, apparently they're traveling with the carnival because every chance they get, they're, helping, the little kids win the prizes, and then they get an opportunity to take a toy home, and that's what they're doing. They're actually helping other toys so they can get homes.
Yeah, so it feels to me like the way that they did these montages during the credits, I'm kind of thinking that this is probably going to be now. I mean, here's the thing about this, and I'm just going to say this right now. I don't think this is going to be the last Toy Story film. By no imagination, and we're going to tell you. Obviously, I'll tell you why now is because it's doing tremendously well at the box office as of this podcast. And
and so did Incredibles 2. But we did. It's kind of like I'm glad that you mentioned this because when Toy Story 4 was being announced and promoted, and Ellen DeGeneres had Tom Hanks over as a guest on the show. And, she was asking him, do you think that this will be the last Toy Story film? And Tom said yes. But we had one of the producers saying, we always like to keep a Toy Story film as if it was going to be its last, but at the same time make it a standalone film. So don't be surprised if you do see another film in the Toy Story franchise.
Let me safely say this: do you really think a Disney executive sitting up there in Disney headquarters right now is going to say that's going to be the last ever Toy Story film after the success that it's currently bringing in at the moment? I do not think so. I think that even if Pixar decides to make the decision, okay, we're never ever going to make another Toy Story movie again, I guarantee you Disney will find a way to revive it in some way. They already tried once before, and obviously it got cancelled. Obviously, but I mean, Disney will. If Pixar won't do it, someone else will. I'll say that.
I understand what you're saying, and don't forget that we have, the announcement that came out roughly around the same time that Toy Story 4 was being promoted, that they wanted to focus on original projects. They were going to take a break from doing their sequels.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's now. I mean, I think for the next couple of years, I think we are going to get original stories. I mean, well, that depends really, because like if Onward's a flop. And what's their other project they currently got going on? Soul. And if Soul is going to have kind of the same aura, I think, as Inside Out, and I think it has the same, heart, I think, as Inside Out, and has the same kind of intelligence of that. Maybe that'll be tremendously successful. I mean, I don't know at this stage. We only have a movie title, but in regards to, if Onward and Soul are not box office successes, I guarantee you Disney will turn around and say you definitely have to make Toy Story 5 right now. I guarantee you that.
I agree for sure. And for all the people who are complaining about no more sequels, no more remakes, watch the original stuff and see if that makes it into a huge box office success. Because how many of you people out there saw Missing Link?
Yeah, and it's on top of that as well, they've done original movies in the past that have not done well for obvious reasons we've spoken about on PixMix. I mean, look at The Good Dinosaur, for example. That was an original movie, not good at all. And then Brave. Well, I guess Brave isn't really an original concept because she did end up being kind of brought into the Disney Princess Royal Court at the end of the day, even though it was people were totally against it from what I gather. But Brave in some way was an original concept, and that didn't do very well.
Yeah.
Pixar have been allowed to venture on, and it has been to either massive success or to massive failure. Mm-hmm. To be honest with everybody, and not to say they can't afford to fail. I mean, it's Pixar. I mean, of course they can afford to. I mean, they're very much the gold standard in 3D animation. But if Disney know that Pixar is struggling and they are not doing well with Onward and they're not going to do well with Soul, they will step in and they will say, okay, we either want another Incredibles movie, we'll want another Toy Story movie, or we'll want or even heck, I even still think they should do a Ratatouille sequel. I think.
Yeah. And, I'm glad that you're bringing this up because from what I've seen in the upcoming trailers, now we can finally go into this.
Yep.
They do not have any competition whatsoever. Like I said before, most of the trailers sucked.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about a few of them. So the first one that I saw was Angry Birds 2. And if you've seen the first movie, it's essentially it's based off of the mobile game of the same name. And they're making a whole bunch of really dumb jokes, which I saw oh my God, there were so many dumb jokes.
You know what? I really want... just for punishment for these Angry Birds films, I would love it if Nintendo is working in correlation with the Illumination Studios for a Super Mario movie at the moment. I would love to see a joke where they just make fun of that. Angry Birds being made into a game, and they just make some kind of clever joke about that somehow. I think that. I mean, it's Angry Birds. It's a mobile game. What story could you potentially put to this?
Yeah.
If anything, it looks like a weaker version of the Penguins of Madagascar, and even that wasn't very good.
Yeah. So the next movie I saw in the trailers was Arctic Dogs. It looks awful, by the way. It looks like some cheap CGI. I don't know what company it made this, but listen if you've heard. Stop me if you heard this plot. We have an Arctic fox who wishes to be a sled dog, and he wants to deliver packages. And then when he delivers a package, it turns out that it belongs to this, creature that wants to take over the town that they're at. And it turns into some sort of action spy movie. Okay.
Well, for a minute I thought you were going to say Santa Claus, and I thought, oh, hey, it's a Christmas film.
Actually, I was going to say Balto. It's Balto. You have somebody who is outcast and who wants to be a hero by delivering packages via sled. It's Balto.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Arctic Dogs is not original. And also, I didn't get the trailer here. So, I mean, like, you know, me and Patricia are going to get different trailers because obviously where we are regionally. But,
Yeah.
I mean, so, I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, so what was the other one that you saw?
Okay, so the other one I did see was Frozen 2. I saw that again, and a lot of kids were actually more excited about that. It's like, oh look, there's Elsa. It's like seriously, like nobody else reacted to the other trailers, but then when they saw Frozen 2, it's like, oh look, it's Elsa, and you know, even though they already saw the trailer because the trailer's already been out since the past year, but nobody cared because it's Frozen 2, and everybody was so excited about it.
I've got to be honest with you, Patricia. I can see the excitement. I mean, you look at those trailers, and you can definitely see that this is. I mean, they're taking Elsa in a new direction as well. Like, this isn't Elsa, being too powerful. This is about Elsa whether she's actually powerful enough. And like, so they're putting her in a seriously different place. And so I think, and also top of that as well, like they're not, at least in my opinion. I mean, we're not seeing any sing-alongs. We're not seeing like any. I mean, it looks pretty. It looks a bit more. It looks far more gritty than the original Frozen film does, at least in my opinion. And so I'm starting to wonder if this isn't going to be marketed towards like a new generation of like little girls. This is going to be marketed towards the people who originally saw the film and now are going to be seeing, you know, the other film again. There's just this kind of like, I mean, I know it sounds really weird, but there's this kind of like Halo 2 kind of like vibe coming towards it right now. Like you know, like we played Halo Combat Evolved, and yeah, it was a good shooter, but you know, it could have obviously been better. And then Halo 2 came out and just rectified all the problems, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like I just feel like I do get this kind of like, you know, hey, there's something here. And even though I know it's probably way outside my demographic, but you know, I will give points for good work. And if
I mean, that didn't stop you from meeting Elsa when we were in Disney World.
Well, I did that for a friend, but I mean, like, and she definitely enjoyed it. But I mean, in regards to Anna and Elsa going into this sequel, you know, there's a lot of exciting buzz around it. When the trailer launched, it trended on Twitter for hours, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, everyone saw this and everyone saw that there was something here. And, you know, when the moment when they did that thing where, you know, Anna takes Kristoff's sword and just swipes it at the camera, it's kind of like, oh, wow. Like, you know, what happened there? You know?
Yeah.
They've marketed this right, and they're not it doesn't, to me, look like they're aiming it at a new, you know, the new crowd of Disney. It sounds like they're trying to go after the fans, and they're trying to go after the original fans of Frozen. That's just my opinion on the whole thing anyway.
Yeah. And then the next one was Onward, which, you know, we already saw the Onward trailer, and it does make a lot of sense because it's Pixar. This is their next movie after Toy Story 4. Then it was Spies in Disguise, which was the spy movie with Will Smith, and it was so dumb.
Yeah. I mean, we actually didn't get that
what's going
trailer.
on, Blue Sky Studios? You were on a good streak with like the Peanuts movie, and after you completely decimated and cremated and burned the Ice Age franchise to the ground after using it too many times. It's like, this is the best you can do.
I know what you're talking about now. That trailer I did actually see that trailer that you were talking about. It was actually in the theater when we saw it. Yeah, it's it's another Will Smith movie.
But it looks so stupid. Like, I thought that, Will Smith is a spy and he looks really cool.
I mean,
and I was like, okay, I can. That's pretty cool.
Patricia,
it's like almost like his character from Men in Black.
Patricia, you are aware that 2 movies that Will Smith has on his resume are After Earth and Wild Wild West. I mean, how further stupid can he go?
He turns into a pigeon.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's the stupidest thing. I mean, and also as well, it's a Blue Sky Studios film, so, you know, of course. Like, you know, if this was live action and this was like, you know, a studio with a good track record, then I would be very, very shocked. But given that this is Blue Sky Studios, this is once again another animal. Like, you know, like they've done this before, you know, Rio and various other. They've done Rio, they've done Ice Age, they've done,
yes. I think they did Robots, but there's a reason why, you know, this movie is, Blue Sky Studios are kind of like in the bottom tier in terms of like animated films behind like Pixar and DreamWorks.
Exactly. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, I'm really surprised Will Smith signed up to the project, but, I mean, mind you, I shouldn't be surprised because he also did After Earth and Wild Wild West, but, I mean, to me, it just makes sense. I mean, you have Will Smith, who is, as far as I'm aware, That's about that as well. Like Aladdin right now. I mean, you know where Will Smith is right now. Aladdin is his best-selling film, and even that's
Aladdin is getting a sequel, by the way.
Well, The Return of Jafar. I mean, like,
yes, they're doing The Return of Jafar in live action.
Oh, great! So, I mean, like, so the guys are going to take the pilot of the Aladdin TV series and turn that into a movie too. Like,
yep.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, it's going to be fun, and I can't wait to see the live-action Aladdin TV series as well.
I just like
it's great.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's that Aladdin movie is it's not as good as it's not good. I mean, like it's so low energy when you look at it. Like I mean, and if we've been proven wrong and been told that there's this and there's that and there's the other, but I mean, I'm not excited to go see it, and if I do see it, it will just be off complete chance. If anything, so yeah.
Yeah, and let's see if there was any other trailers, if I remember.
You told me about you all. You said that we were going to be talking about one particular one that you seem to have not mentioned yet, and that is you said you wanted to talk about at the end of the show.
Oh yes,
Trolls World Tour. Yeah.
What was the trailer again? I completely blanked out now.
Trolls.
Oh, damn it. Now I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw Trolls World Tour. Okay.
Just to preface this before we have this discussion. So me and Patricia Patricia saw it in the theater. I've seen it on YouTube. So Trolls World Tour, I didn't actually see it in the theater. Now, I mean, here's the thing about this. I mean, obviously they go with the whole Sound of Silence thing, which is quite funny because I actually mentioned that with the Disturbed album. But so they do that, and then they bring in another troll who looks like a rock star and is obviously doing the whole metal thing. And so apparently in this sequel they're expanding the troll universe, where actually there's not just one group of trolls, there's actually lots of other trolls across the world. Yeah, so there's
six that represent 6 genres of music. There's pop music, there's funk music, there's rock and roll, there's country, there's techno, and there's hip hop, or
there's
I don't
rock.
Remember.
So
we have.
Well, so here's the thing about this. There's far more music genres than that.
Oh, wait, classical. That's what it was. The fifth
classical,
one was
like so. Here's the thing about this, like what? No K-pop, like no other, no rap, no
Well, I mean, there was hip hop, but it was done in an awful joke.
Oh yeah, it will be. But here's the thing about this, like so the whole peril of this film is going to be that Rock wants to take over the world. Yeah, I mean, I'm very sorry. Like, what a horrible thing to happen to our heroes.
I know, right? It's like, Rock's taking over. Darn, how sad.
But here's the thing about this, okay, I'll accept this movie exists, but there's one thing I want to kind of like soften the punch. And you know what that is? So I want there to be here's the thing about this. Who would you bring in for this film if you were going to bring in people from Rock? Who's the one person you would go to? And also on top of that as well, it being a DreamWorks film, who's the one person you would go to put into this film?
Jack Black.
Exactly. I think, not only that, like, bring in Tenacious D, bring in the guys from Black Sabbath, bring in Ozzy Osbourne, bring in, like, the guys from AC/DC, just bring in all these, like, even bring in Kiss if you need to, bring in Gene Simmons. I mean, just bring in all these guys who are, like, legends of rock, and basically put them in this movie, and maybe, just maybe, I might get some kind of enjoyment out of it. Maybe. Like,
man, that would be so good.
It would.
And if they are going to do pop music, and if they are going to do, classical music and all these things, and take advantage of it, like, bring in some of the best people to do the music.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you've not got the money to do it. Like, it's like you managed to produce all these other DreamWorks films. Like, I'm sure you can bring in enough money to bring in all these guys to, like, for like a minute or so to do some like voiceovers.
No, but instead it's like this plot about like this troll who wants to gather all the 6 strings from each kingdom so that Rock can take over all of music.
Yeah.
And the jokes are so horrible. The ending joke where, one of the trolls, gets an egg and then it gives birth to like this hip hop troll named Tiny, and it's like my soul was crying. Oh,
I just think that, I really think. I mean, all I can say is that I don't think it's going to be good, but there are ways they can make it at least, tolerable. So like, we leave it to them, and I'm sure in a future episode of Dream Machine, we're going to let you know what we think of this. So
yeah, for sure. Well, at least we have Abominable to look forward to, so there's that.
Yeah, I guess. So, and so that was the trailers, and and that's pretty much our episode for PixMix / The Arun Meta Show. So
yeah. Now, one more question I want to ask you, Aaron. A lot of people were pretty mixed when this movie was released because, they thought that even though Toy Story 4 was a nice movie, they felt that it didn't justify its existence. What do you think of it?
Well, here's my ending thing on this. I will accept that this is a good Toy Story movie. However, I won't accept that it's my favorite movie.
No, not my favorite movie either.
My favorite movie right now is still 2. And so as far as I'm concerned, and here's the thing about this. I mean, they could probably make like maybe 10 other Toy Story films, but I really think that after 2, I think, 3 was, I thought was going to be the end of it all. I really thought, and then they came out with 4. But I mean, here's the thing about this. I think Pixar, they know their characters so well, and they know, Toy Story is their baby. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if they announce another Toy Story film, it's gonna be, like, the priority one project, and it's gonna basically have the best eyeballs onto it. I mean, it didn't look like it during production. I mean, we can definitely say that, because it was, there was so much shit going on in the background. But, in regards to Toy Story, if Pixar is gonna one day announce another Toy Story sequel, I guarantee you, I think it will still be good, but I just don't think it will be the best Toy Story film. I don't think. Yeah. I think eventually it's going to be... I think it's going to mediocre out, at some point. But it still will impress people, I think, from people
for sure.
Yeah.
And as for me, I do enjoy Toy Story 4 as well. I do know that, in my opinion, I want to say that it may be, like, one of the weaker films of the series because... it doesn't like pull in the emotional strings and, compared to the other films, but it is still really good for what it is. And if they were going to say, yeah, we're going to do a Toy Story 5, I'm not going to be like, oh, you shouldn't do that because the ending was just perfectly fine the way it was and Toy Story 4 didn't justify its existence. But no, I'm not going to be that way at all.
I don't know. I think in regards to, here's the thing about this. With Toy Story 3, you had to somewhat kind of be aware of Toy Story and Toy Story 2. With Toy Story 4, you don't. With Toy Story 4, they let you know from the get-go what the deal is, and it doesn't really matter too much if you haven't watched the other 3. Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's it's I mentioned this in the Toy Story 3 episode of PixMix that any kid can go into Toy Story 3 and they would already have an idea on what the 2 previous movies were about, even if they'd never seen it before.
No, well, here's the thing about this, though. The one argument I'll put against that is the ending scene, where Andy's playing with the toys, as an adult. That's emotional if you've seen the other 2, but if you haven't, it kind of looks a bit stupid.
Sure, but but you do get an idea on the beginning of the movie where he is playing with the toys and he's spending time with them. Sure, you won't get the same emotional punch, but you won't be completely lost either, like we were when we saw the Cars movies in Out of Order.
No, but I don't know. If you're gonna ask me if we have a debate about whether we think 3 is better than 4, I don't know. I'm gonna need to have a massive think about that because I don't. There's part of me that believes. That 4 holds up, but just a bit more than 3 does. And
I think that we need to let this movie sit in for a good year or so. That way we can be able to get a full appreciation because, Toy Story 3 has like a 9-year, advantage. So I think we need to let it sit in just for a little while longer. That's similar to how people are arguing to this day about which is better, the first Incredibles or the second one. So I think we need to let it sit in for a few years.
I agree. Okay, then. So...
And also, one more thing to bring up, and this is apparently when I was watching through the credits, when I was looking through the scenes where the toys were helping out the other toys during the carnival, I saw John Lasseter's name as part of the story, which I can assume that this would be the very last movie that John Lasseter would be a part of, and the Lasseter era of Pixar is officially over. So now we have I think it's Pete Docter, who's the president of Pixar. So let's see where he takes it from here.
Yeah, it feels like a really weird kind of like, era that we're currently going through right now because, now we've no longer got, Reggie in charge of Nintendo. We now got, Bowser, ironically. And, now we've got, obviously, someone else taking the helm at Pixar. And also, I'm pretty sure there's someone else, there's another transition that we've seen in...
Brian Robbins is now the president of Nickelodeon as opposed to Seamus Aragami.
Oh, yeah, so it's like, we kind of feel like we're going through a passing of the torch era right now. Like, everything's just going into transition. So I think, in regards to our show, in regards to PixMix, I think we've got some interesting discussions, I think, to have over the next couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah. And don't worry, we will be, doing, we'll still be doing PixMix episodes, even though that we'll probably have to wait another year until Onward comes out.
Well, keep this in mind. I mean, we've still got some shorts to go through. So,
that's right, we do.
Yeah, so, who knows, guys? Like, PixMix is still a random show, so you don't know what you're going to get. So, maybe you might get Elmwood, maybe you might get Soul, or else you probably just get a random short, so, that we're all going to talk about. So, until then, we're putting PixMix to bed again, and so, we no doubt we'll be getting out at some point, getting out of the toy box at some point again. And so, so for all of you who are listening to PixMix, my name is Aaron.
And my name is Patricia.
And for those listening to the Arun Meta Show, you can find me on Facebook.com/Arun Meta Show. Twitter is @Arun Meta Show. ArunMeta.tumblr.com. And on Instagram is @Arun Meta Show 2. If you want to listen to the show, there's plenty of ways to listen. Some of those include Apple Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, and also includes iHeartRadio, and also includes Pocket Casts. And also we're trying to get onto radio.com as well. And also we're trying to get onto Acast. So, there's still trying to get onto various other places. But by the way, if you find a podcast which doesn't have our name on it, then if you let us know, and we'll try and get onto there as well, because we want to be on all your favorite platforms. Pretty much, because we're on Radio Public, we're on Stitcher, we're on Podcast Addicts, we're on TuneIn, and so we're in plenty of places, and so we want to be where your favorite place is as well. So this has been PixMix / the Arun Meta Show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Next week, we promise we'll have a normal show, but thank you very much for checking us out. It has been the 14th of July of 2019, and thank you very much for checking us out. Bye-bye.